Yo YouTube, it's your bro Elliott Hulse here, and I decided to put together a short series in order to lay out for you the principles for growing stronger. That means bigger lifts, bigger muscles by following principles. Of course, we know that there are many tricks and tactics and strategies to building muscle, but when we have the principles, we have the foundation, and we can build any kind of program to build any kind of body that we want, as long as we abide by these 7 principles that I'm going to teach you in the course of the next few videos. Beginning with this one today, where we're going to explore the lifts that get us the body that we want. In terms of lifts, it's important for us to understand that there is a principle of compound movement, meaning that we're going to build the biggest amount of muscle, we're going to get the biggest return on our investment in terms of strength, performance, health, if we follow this principle. Now, the principle of compound movement basically means that there are certain exercises that require multiple joints, right? So for example, if I'm doing a bicep curl, it's a single joint exercise. But if I'm doing a chin-up, it's a compound multi-joint exercise. So you're compounding both the movement at the shoulder and at the elbow, which makes it thus a compound movement. So I'm gonna lay out for you the best compound movements for building an overall body, and then I'm going to follow up very quickly in this same video with some of my favorite single joint exercises that are going to support your compound efforts, beginning with the king of all exercises, squats. If you're lifting for strength, you're lifting for muscle, you're lifting for health, you have to have squats as a part of your routine. Now, there are many different types of squats. There are many different ways that we can use the squat in terms of intensity, reps, sets, things of this nature. But for all intents and purposes, a squat basically means you're bending at your ankles, you're bending at your knees, you're bending at your hips in order to lower your body from the lower portion, right? Just squatting down, just sitting down, and then standing back up. When you really boil it down to it, squatting is a very basic movement. We're just sitting down. In fact, it's my conviction that the squat is the primal movement pattern by which we not only build more muscle, but make ourselves healthy by massaging and compressing the digestive organs every time we sit down or sink down, squat down, and rest our upper body on the quads, rest our torso on the quads. So I am a fan of full squats. Now, a full squat is similar to what you would see an Olympic athlete do, as opposed to a powerlifting squat, which you'd see a powerlifter do. Now, they're both great squats, they both have their place, but for our purposes today, I want to focus on the Olympic squat, mainly because it's a full squat. It's about bringing that butt as low as you possibly can go with proper form and using the proper function. We're not going to get too deep into that. That's not the purpose of this video, but it's to enlighten you of the fact that you must include squats in your program. Another compound movement that is just as critical and in many ways may be more important depending on your sport and who you ask, and that is the deadlift. And the deadlift, as opposed to the squat, is more of a bend at the hips. There's an emphasis on bowing forward, leaning your center of gravity over your base of support. And so when you deadlift, it's another compound movement because we are using our ankles, our knees, and our hips. It's just that the emphasis is a bit different. You have to include deadlifts in your routine, some form of the deadlift, some form of the squat, and now let's move on to a press. Now, traditionally, and when I say traditionally, I'm talking about when I'm reading books from like the 1800s and like the very first lifters, guys that were growing stronger through the tradition of warriorhood, manhood, strength in its many expressions. And so that would typically show up in the form of an overhead squat. I'm sorry, as an overhead press. An overhead press essentially is a compound movement where we take the weight from a standing position and we simply just press it over our head. That would be my preferred first step integrating the compound upper body movement of pressing into your routine. Of course, we have the ever popular bench press, which is known for building up the pecs and the triceps and the shoulders, where the overhead press doesn't build the pecs so much, so it's probably not the best bodybuilding exercise if you're looking for chest aesthetics, but it definitely is a basic. It's the basis of pressing, and that is overhead, right? It's so functional, it's so basic. It's basically picking something up and pushing it over your head. It doesn't get any more primal or basic than that. Now, so we've got a bend, we've got a squat, we've got a press, and for the purposes of this videos, I'm gonna add just one more, and that is a pull. Now, it doesn't mean that those are the only functional movement patterns that are required for building a strong body, but they are the ones that are basically full spectrum. We're talking squats to work the front part of the body, in many regards, the quads and such, the deadlifts to work the posterior chain, the overhead press or the bench press to work the press pattern in the upper body. But then pulling, I find that both the horizontal and vertical pull, just like the horizontal and vertical press, should be integrated into your routine. So that means, in my opinion, the bend over row has to be a part of your routine, as well as the pull-up. Bend over row is horizontal, you're pulling this way, so you're working more of the upper back, more of the rear delts, the rhomboids, where the pull-up or the chin-up, we're working more of the lats. So whether you're holding it from a neutral grip or a supine grip or what is this, overhand grip, right? What is it, the opposite of supine, right? Supine, I remember supine because you can hold a bowl of soup. That's how I learned it. But anyway, overhand. I forget today. So there you have it. As far as lifts are concerned, those are your primary compound lifts that are essential for your lifting routine. Now, very briefly, I want to talk about a few accessory lifts that are single joint that are going to support you in your efforts to build up those main lifts: squat, deadlift, overhead press, bench press, and bent over row. And we'll begin with the lower body. Now, of course, if you've watched bodybuilding videos or if you've ever bodybuilded before, you're probably familiar with exercises like leg extensions, leg curls. These are accessory movements to your squat. Leg extension is single jointed. You're sitting down and you're extending your leg. Leg curl is also single joint because you're essentially just bending your knee up this way. Boom. Now, single joint exercises to support both your squat and your deadlift. Another single joint exercise that is going to support one of our compound movements would be any kind of tricep press down, tricep overhead extension, tricep exercises where we're focusing on the extension of the arm. We want to include those in our routines that support our pressing. So triceps, and then on the opposite end, biceps that support our pulling. So you've got your bicep curl with the barbell, dumbbell bicep curls, things of this nature. And so you got to consider that those more peripheral joints, including the knee and the elbow, have a tremendous impact on your ability to do the compound movements, the squats, the deadlifts from the more proximal, or how you might say, core movements. So there you have it. Essentially those movements will get you what you want regardless of the program that you follow, because you're using the principle of compound movements. This is the first in our series. I'll be back with another video where I'm going to go over intensity. Intensity is one of those weird words that sort of get misunderstood in our genre of strength and muscle building. I'll be back with that video next. Done.